Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, hello, Enrichers, and welcome back to the Health and Wealth Podcast. I am your co-host, Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group, joined by my co-host and owner of Chemical Free Body, Tim James. Tim James, how are you doing today, bud?
Dude, I'm doing really good, and I'm really pumped and excited to have our first guest on the show, Scott.
Yes.
Scott, thanks for being here, brother.
My pleasure. Can't wait to do the podcast with you guys. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. You didn't get the dress attire, though. There's no suits and ties allowed. You didn't know that, though, did you?
I got to have this back by 4 o'clock. We gotta
Just kidding. You can wear it all you want, brother.
There you go.
Oh, that's awesome. So, hey, I want to make sure that I get this on record. Today was a big day. My daughter, my only daughter, 17 years old, just turned 17, passed her driver's license today. So it's a little bit of a historical moment, but at the same time, for those enrichers out there, careful on the road, please, because we got another 17-year-old out there on the road.
She brought the car back with no dents too, right?
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, she passed, so there you go, I guess.
There you go.
Did you have to mortgage your house to afford that insurance spike premium?
Speaking of that, it's funny. My wife today said, hey, I guess you need to make sure you call our insurance agent and get that taken care of. So anyway, we're going to find out what that's going to cost us now.
Yeah.
There you go. Awesome.
Get her out of the house. Hurry up. Get on your own. So, hey, pretty excited today. It's actually guest number one for us. And I know we normally don't give numbers on this because you don't know when you're watching this, because this could be something that you're seeing 3 years from now. You don't know if it's number one podcast or number 31,000 podcasts. But we are joined by one of my dearest friends and advisor, partner, mentor, president of Premier Estate and Income Planning, Scott Garcia. Scott, thank you again for being on with us today.
I appreciate it. I'm impressed. I'm the first guest. I think that is a great honor. So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Scott, if you don't mind, in this first segment, let's talk a little bit about, how we got here. I know we've got a couple of stories and everything, but give a little bit of your own background, your own story, how you got here in the first place in the industry that you're in. Obviously, very worthwhile, financial services part of the equation, insurance and taxes and things of that nature. But go ahead and give us a little bit of your backstory and share with the audience a little bit about, how we got together at the end, maybe.
Sure. Okay. So grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, the beautiful town of St. Louis, Missouri. Still live here. And I guess it all started when I went to college to play baseball, and I was gone for about 2 weeks, and I had a hard time breathing. I was rounding second base, and I thought, well, maybe it's just, hot out here in Missouri. It's just I'm not in shape. I'll keep playing. So about a week later, I was having a harder time breathing. I couldn't really throw. My arm was hurting. So my roommate walked on my back for 2 weeks straight in our dorm room. I was trying to get my back straightened out, and it's just getting worse. So I went to the free clinic, and the doctor at Mizzou must have been a new doctor because he came out. His eyes were very big, and he said, Scott, have you ever been told you had a heart murmur? I said, no, doc. Why would you say that? He goes, well, you got a softball-sized tumor in your chest. You've got about 3 weeks to live. We suggest you go back to St. Louis. Now, that was the last thing I thought I'd ever hear, was saying I had 3 weeks to live. So I went back to St. Louis, went through a couple of biopsies, surgery, 2 years of chemotherapy, and thank goodness I recovered. But by the time I got done with all the surgeries and biopsies, all my buddies were now 2 years older, and I really wasn't motivated to go back to school. So a buddy of mine was selling insurance. He said, why don't you just come up and sell insurance at a company here in St. Louis and see how you do over the summer? So I did, and I immediately had success, and I never went back to school. So that's how that kind of started. And Carter and I got involved because really of a mistake made by Carter was in a position of being a wholesaler of annuities, and one of his people who worked with him made a mistake, and I was transferred to Carter because this guy made a mistake, and the rest is history. Carter took care of me like nobody else. We've been friends for 16 years now, and it's been a great relationship knowing Carter and going in into our next venture, which is Carter starting CSI Financial, me starting Premier Estate and Income Planning, those meshing. And now we have a full-blown estate planning platform, probably the most unique. We know that in the country, and probably one of the best in the country also.
Yeah. So, Scott, it's been 16 years since we've known each other. It's been an incredible ride. There's been lots of ups, lots of downs, and everything. And why don't you talk a little bit about some of those things that you're doing currently in your marketplace? We've got COVID that we're dealing with. We've had to make a lot of different changes and pivots and modifications to our normal business practices. Share a little bit with the audience on some of those challenges that you've had to overcome, and what things are like there on the ground for you.
Sure. Well, typically, a financial advisor or even probably an attorney, we have an attorney that works with our organization here in St. Louis, but the typical advisor and the attorneys now are faced with this COVID situation where people really don't want to come out of their home. It's hard to have anybody come into the office. It's safe. Can I even have people come into my office? The neat thing about our platform, it's all virtual. My business, I'll have a better year this year in 2020 than I did in 2019, even though the COVID situation has happened, because our system can be done totally virtually. I'm having virtual appointments of people I've never met in person, taking them through the whole entire system and getting their estate plan set up and helping them with their financial plan. And I really have never even shook hands or bumped elbows with them or looked at them face to face in person. It's all done virtually. So our system has set me in a situation where COVID really has had little effect personally on me. I feel bad for people who it's affected, but we've transitioned and pivoted where we haven't lost a beat because of our program.
So obviously, you and I, we started out down this road, this journey, totally 16 years ago, but specifically with what we have coined the advisor partner platform that, right. I've been the architect for, and we've done a lot of refinement. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Along the way, right?
Right.
And it's been, in your estimate, would you say that this has been, not to sound like I'm bloviating or exaggerating, would you say it was game changing with what it is? And we can get a little bit more in how we first started talking about that. And maybe that's a good idea. We can talk about that now. Actually, let's talk about a little bit how you first introduced me to estate planning in the first place.
Right. Well, it's an incredible story, because for 31 years of my career, I knew nothing about estate planning. I knew nothing. I would walk in somebody's house, do their financial plan, name beneficiaries, thinking I was doing a good job, not knowing I was possibly setting up most people for failure, because naming a beneficiary, although it avoids probate, is not the wherewithal. It's not the complete plan. And I was introduced to estate planning just on accident because a guy thought I was a good speaker and wanted to hire me to do estate planning seminars. And that was a great educational process for me. And things were going great until this gentleman didn't want to grow his business anymore. And I was kind of confined to just what area he wanted me to work in. So I called Carter one day and said, Carter, we can do estate planning. We can do this whole platform. Find me an estate planning platform. And Carter's like, okay, Scott. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think he had the attitude, okay, Scott, call me tomorrow, call me next week. Really didn't take me seriously. So we hopped on the phone, and I called him the week after. I said, Carter, did you find me an estate planning platform? And Carter's like, Scott, I've been busy. Really, what are you talking about? So I might let you kind of delve on what was going through your mind when I was bringing that up 2 or 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind?
Well, I can tell you that, number one, Scott Garcia is a consummate professional, Tim James. And you know what that's like when you were out there in the field, right, yourself, and you're working with clients. A lot of times, maybe actually or implicitly, you had to explain to the client what makes you different, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys that are sharp dressed, good speakers, right? But there's plenty of them to go around. It really was a situation where Scott learned early on that this was the differentiator for him. Just estate planning as a foundational approach was the differentiator.
Totally.
And when he came to me, he was like, hey, we can do this better than the way we're doing it over here. And I want you to, especially in light of what has happened in the last 9 months, I want you to think about, Scott, and I'm going to reveal to the audience that one of the things Scott said to me early on when I finally came to him, I said, look, I've got the estate planning platform. It's all online. It's all electronical. It's all e-signatures. And it's all going to be done, real easy. And here's the cost, yada, yada, yada. Scott, why don't you share with the audience what you told me, how you felt about my solution originally?
Right. So I got to go through how I was so wrong. Is that what you're asking me to do?
That's
what you're
all
asking
I'm
me
saying. Yeah.
Awesome. So Carter finally takes me seriously and did some research. Thank goodness he did. And he finds this estate planning platform, calls me and says, I got the estate planning platform. So I'm really excited. And I call Carter back and we're talking. And he tells me it's online. And I'm not an online, technologically inclined person. So the first thing I said was, Carter, thanks for doing the research. This will never work. I'm in Missouri, man. This is the Midwest. I deal with people in their 70s. There's no way they're going to take to a computer-based digital platform. There's no way. Forget it. Ain't going to happen. It'll never work. Find me something else. And Carter, with his way with people, said, why don't you give it a chance? Let's talk a little bit more. Let's have a conference call with this gentleman who owns this program. Let's go through this. So I go through it and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it'll work. So I go to our attorney, the attorney who we have now, thinking this attorney, I'm embarrassed even bringing it up to the attorney because the attorney's going to laugh at this digital platform. So Jennifer, the attorney, talks to Gary, the owner of the company, calls me back and says, Scott, Gary is a genius. This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I thought the digital platform would never work, but the proof is in the pudding. The last 3.5 years here in St. Louis, we've done 378 estate plans. One person picked the traditional book Missouri Trust. Out of 379 people, 378 went the digital platform. People love it. It does things that the book cannot do, will never be able to do, and has been a total game changer for us. And it gives me the ability, like other advisors that have our platform, to set ourselves apart in the field because there's nothing like this in the field. And it sets us apart, increases the client experience, and makes us very referable. I like to say, Carter says, gives us the way to get introduced to other people, but it makes us very referable. It's like anything else in the industry, and we're going to change this industry as we go on in the process.
So I said, I've been saying this now for a while. When I tell other people this story, I'll say it on this broadcast today. By the way, when you say the book, this is what you're talking about. It's this big, thick book, right? It's got all the pages in it and everything.
Right.
That's like, no. You don't understand, Carter. The people in Missouri are different. They're never going to go for that, right? So one example out of almost 400 where someone goes, no, I got to have this.
Right.
And we have this proprietary process. Actually, I was getting ready to say, what was I getting ready to say? I tell people this when I tell the story. I said, Scott may or may not admit this, but at the time, if I would have said, Scott, would you bet your life on even the majority, even if it was 51% of the people would choose the book over the digital, he would have bet his life that he would have been right, that more than half of the people, even 51% of the people, would have chosen this book over the digital. Is that fair?
I thought it'd be 90% book, 10% digital, and it's 99.999 digital, 0.0001 book. So I was totally wrong, and thank God I was wrong. And thank God you let me have the chance to learn more about it.
Well, you almost made it sound like the recovery of COVID whenever you get it, 99.999%.
That is true.
Anyway, so I was going to go somewhere else with that, before, but this whole entire practice, this whole entire process that we refined, right? I know what I was going to say. The reason why this book does not make any sense, I'll tell you why. Estate planning is a journey. So what we have found with our clientele, and Scott can reinforce this, is that these clients typically fall in one of two categories. One, they've either done something in the past, They need to update what they've done in the past, or whatever they've done in the past, they have no idea what it is, right? That's number one. The majority of the people fall in the second category of being procrastinators. So because they are ultimately going to be on this journey of estate planning with us, we had this proprietary process that we call our 90 and 90 formula. And a lot of our clients, Scott's clients, will ask the question, well, okay, 90% in 90 minutes or less, that's awesome. That's amazing. That sounds fantastic. And I'm going to have handheld, support all along the way and through the entire process. But Scott, what about the other 10%? What's that all about, right?
Right.
Now, Scott, I can answer the question, or do you want to interject on how you answer that question?
One thing that's inevitable is change. The 10% is the change. When you want to make changes with our platform, the client is in total control to make changes, unlike the book where they're dependent on the attorney. That's the big, big deal. That all those 10%, that really is the big deal. The client is in control.
Yeah. And that's what we really, a little bit of that is marketing, right? But it really is to help the clients a lot of times sort of understand that it is a journey. We're not just saying that estate planning is a journey. Like, this is years of knowledge and understanding reinforcing this, that whenever you go in and man, I got to know everything. I go in and I spend 3 hours with the attorney. They walk out of the office. They're like, okay, I got that behind me. Now I can sleep well tonight.
Yeah.
They're 64 years old, 72 years old. How many more years do they have in their life when this one constant that's going to happen not only for them, but everybody on the planet is going to be that one constant that we all deal with called change.
Sure.
And the beauty and the awesomeness about this platform is that when those changes occur, our team that facilitated in the first place is there to help you now and in perpetuity throughout the rest of your life. And there's going to be lots of changes that are going to occur.
So let me get this straight, guys. So, because I remember, we were doing that back when I was a financial advisor. We called it the triangle of trust. You have the attorney, the CPA, and the advisor, and usually none of the three of them are talking. It was hard to get the people over to the estate plan, but you'd finally get them over there, meet with the attorneys, and like you said, you'd meet with them doing all that stuff. But then things change. Maybe your son is the executor of the estate, but then he becomes a drug addict the next year, or he marries some whacked out lady, or maybe it's your daughter is the executor and then she marries some whacked out dude, and you want to make sure that there's no control there. So what you're telling me is that you could just go online and make those changes and do e-signatures in the comfort of your own home. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Yeah, because
themselves. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they can do it themselves. Yeah, in fact, recently I just did that I just updated my beneficiaries on the life insurance policies right online. I made the changes, done. And it was so easier. So I'm empowered, right? And you guys know that when you got into the industry, there was all this language that we had to learn to even understand and navigate what the hell's going on. And when the clients are coming to us, it's like they don't understand the language, right? So that they kind of hand their power over to us. And I never wanted to do that. I always wanted to empower them and really educate. But the attorney thing is really always really scary. And we were always telling them, once you get the estate plan in place, then it needs to be reviewed at the first of every year and gone over. If there's any changes, those need to be updated because change does occur. That's the one constant in life. So that's a really, really cool service that you guys are offering. And for those of you out there that are financial advisors, if you don't have that into your practice, man, I think you're really missing the boat, because you're going to be losing clients to people like Scott.
Totally. And Tim, not only can the client make a change, but it is a legal document. So let's say they want help, assistance from the attorney. They can log into their account and go to a notepad system and get a hold of the attorney 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whenever they make a request, it's time and date stamped to the second, permanent record. It's there forever. And then when the attorney makes the changes, that's time and date stamped to the second, permanent record. It's there forever. And the client never has to leave their home, even though they're helped by the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And by the way, it's not some mysterious attorney, right, Scott? Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
No, in St. Louis, we have our own personal attorney right here, Jennifer Cermak, that our clients interact with. They can see her in person if they request, but it's as personal as you can get it, as far as ways you want to have it. But it's the key is it's done quickly. We had a speaking about, somebody brought up drug addict. We had a lady is in LAX airport, one of our clients, 47 years old, gets a call from her sister, says, "Hey, did you know your son Eric is a heroin addict?" She said, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, your son's on heroin. It's known all around. I can't believe you don't know it." The lady's in the LA airport getting ready to fly to go to a cruise. And she goes, "Oh my goodness, he's half a beneficiary on my $500,000 401k. If something happens to me, I'm gonna hand $250,000 to my son who's on heroin." Holy cow! Now this lady gets on her phone, calls Jennifer, and over the internet, over this lady's phone, they changed the beneficiary. They gave this kid a distribution plan of the money, not an outright beneficiary designation, saving this kid possibly from himself. That change was done in about 7 minutes. With our system is the only way to do it. If this lady had a traditional book trust that Carter showed a few minutes ago, she would have no prayer. She would have to hope nothing happened, fly back to St. Louis, call the attorney, set an appointment for a week after, go in there, get it changed, maybe wait a couple of weeks for it to get changed, and then pay a fee. Mm-hmm. That's the power of our system. We changed that document when the lady was in the freaking airport. That can't happen with any other system.
Now, I do want to make a note here. This is important. It's not free to make these changes, right? And a lot of people are probably wondering, here we go. Now, I hope everybody's sitting down when I tell you what everything Scott just got through saying. Access to the attorney, timestamped, in a password protected cloud environment, what we call the client console, to be able to log in. All of these changes. In order to make every change, edit, update, modification, tax laws change, whatever it is going to cost you a whopping $95 a year.
Good Lord.
Okay, here's what I said, enrichers. Listen to me, enrichers. Tim James understands. In fact, I think on one of our previous podcasts, Tim James said, "Dude, I wish I was still in the financial services industry because I'd be out there killing it with this right now."
That's right.
Yeah, I would definitely hire you guys if I was doing it. No doubt. No doubt.
You know what's scary about that, Tim, is that it doesn't really cost a lot of money to hire us. That's the whole thing about it. Like literally, it is. I have made this entire platform not only seamless, but it is absolutely process-driven, process-oriented is the way we are in the first place. And I know we're getting ready to go to a break, and I want to go ahead and I want to give you a little teaser. But when we come back, we're going to be talking with Scott Garcia about the new way that he can be able to help your clients in their estate planning need and do all the heavy lifting. Come back and see us on the next segment, Enrichers. Until then, we'll see you then.
If you build it, they will come. For most financial advisors, the subject of estate planning for their clients is relegated to a side activity only to be left to disconnected third-party outsourcing. Rather than recognizing the opportunities it inherently provides, advisors very often view estate planning-related work as a time-consuming, unproductive process. Unfortunately, this kind of remiss and costly attitude is derived mostly from unquestioning acceptance of half-truths or even outright fiction. Another factor is simply the lack of relevant knowledge and a team of experts to partner with. Hello, I'm Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group, and architect of the Advisor Partner Platform. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to update you on how this one-of-a-kind and unprecedented process has changed the lives for so many. When we set out on this journey to connect advisors with clients, we never imagined that we would actually find out that clients or prospective clients needed advisors just as much. The knowledge that we have gained when making accessible our entire team approach has brought to the general public a seamless, cost-effective, and comprehensive way to have true peace of mind. Because of this, when our advisor partners use this collaborative effort, the reward for them at the end has been nothing short of life-changing. All too often we hear words like revolutionary, innovative, or turnkey when describing something to make it more than it is. And in this IMO world that we've been competing in, those are descriptions of empty promises that have given this industry an unenviable reputation. So, after almost 2 decades of being pigeonholed and forced to be part of a system that we didn't create, it was our true intention to recreate. CSI Financial Group is paving the way for what we now call ourselves, a practice development organization, or PDO. Our advisor partner platform is just the beginning of what we are building, and we are encouraging those who are wanting to truly transform their business and stand out from the rest to come learn more. When you partner with us, you'll get all the exclusive tools, resources, and processes needed to cement your ideal clients while creating professional contracts. We look forward to hearing from you and sharing more. Thank you.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim and Carter here with our guest, Scott Garcia, and we've been chopping it up about estate planning. Now, Scott, let's get into this estate planning stuff. Let's go deep in what you're doing in your practice to help people, and why is estate planning so important when it comes to the big picture of financial planning and advising?
Well, it's an important question. We see people all the time. Heck, there's thousands of people listening probably today that have either going to retire someday or already retired, have assets, a home, a house, maybe even a lake house, a couple cars, an IRA, money in the bank, and they think everything's fine, which in most cases it will be until something happens. See, most people don't have the important documents they need, one of which, and I would just say that we said this in a seminar, what if somebody's retired, has done pretty well financially, has a paid off house, a lake house, a couple cars, and they're in a car accident tonight, and they're both incapacitated, and they're rushed to the hospital, and their kids come to the hospital with no documents. There's no healthcare power of attorney name. Who's going to make decisions for that couple? That's a huge problem. That's just one. We can go through 7 of them, but I won't go through 7 of them. But in that same couple, let's say they're both incapacitated, and the doctor says to the kids, hey, we're going to put your mom and dad in a nursing facility. They're going to have to go there for 4 months. Get them registered. So they call the kids call the nursing facility. Hey, my mom and dad need to come in. What's it going to cost us to get them in? Well, we need 3 months down. Well, 3 months for the father is $24,000. 3 months for the wife or for the mother, $24,000. That's $48,000. They then call the financial advisor and say, hey, there's been a terrible situation. My mom and dad both need to go to the nursing facility for 4 months. I need $48,000 out of their IRA accounts to fund their stay just to get them in. And then the broker or the insurance agent or whoever will say, great, if you send me the death claim that I send you and the death certificate, I'll pay out the money. I can see you're the beneficiary, no problem. And then the kid says, no. I don't know if you understood me. My mom and dad didn't die. They just need to go to a nursing home. I need to get some money out of the retirement account. Well, then the broker or insurance agent is going to say, can you send me the financial power of attorney that puts you in charge to even be able to access this account? What's that? I don't have that. I've never heard of that. Well, I'm very sorry. I have to hang up the phone right now. I can't give you any information. So those are just 2 basic reasons most people are not prepared for, even though they may have retired, a president of a company, a doctor. Most people don't have these documents. So these are basic things that people need to know about. And, they can go on my website and watch a 55-minute video that explains 7 things why somebody should prepare themselves with these documents. There's a lot of people out there right now who have single adult children over 18. Well, the same thing's going to happen. You get a call, your daughter or son's in a hospital. There's been a terrible car accident. You better get to the hospital. And the parent walks in. You can prove you're the parent, but because they're over 18, they're an adult, you can't, without the proper healthcare power of attorney documents, you're in big trouble, because just because you're the parent doesn't give you the right to make decisions for that child. Now, you might get away with it depending on if the hospital's been sued, but that's a chance you probably don't want to take. So these problems, although they exist, are very easily fixable if you talk to somebody who knows how to fix them. And not only that, but with our system, I think we have the easiest way to fix them, because as Carter said, we can do 90% of your estate plan, 90% of it in 90 minutes or less, as opposed to maybe weeks with the traditional situation.
Yeah, that's pretty important, because it's such a, unfortunately, our society has such a legal overlay to it now, especially when you get into medical stuff with HIPAA and, and all the financial instruments needed. That's why it's so important, I think, to have not only just looking at where am I going to put my money, how am I going to put it? Should I have some that's, deferred interest and, and all this other stuff and Roth, but what happens if this happens to me and this happens to me, or this happens to, or this happens to my child, or this happens to my son? Hey, this is where you could help your clients and then go to their son and say, hey, you're 34 years old, you're a big boy, but if something happens to you, we need to be able to help you. And right now we can't. You need to go talk to Scott and get this stuff set up. You could be set up in 90 minutes. Yeah. Right.
Well, what if there's what if the grandparents watch the kids during the day, the grandparents watch the grandkids every day, and the kids are at work, and something happens to the grandkids? Well, again, without the proper documents, the grandparents are out of luck. There's so many things that can happen. Why people need to think. What if I'm 68 years old and my son's 30? He's married. They have 2 kids, and he and his wife are killed in a car accident. Who takes care of those kids? Without proper documentation, the court's going to decide. I mean, there's so many different uses for estate planning. Everybody with assets or property needs to look into having an estate plan. And Carter, what's the statistic? How many people in the country have an estate plan?
So that's actually the scariest thing, right? Well, first of all, let me just break it down nice and simple. And I like to do this because people get really scared when they hear estate plan, right? And they think that sounds really scary. Let me simplify what an estate plan is. An estate is simply everything you own. That's your estate. The plan is what needs to be put into place. And that's where it gets a little bit scary for most people. And I'm going to talk about that statistic right now. 83% of Americans don't have this necessary tool that we call a revocable living trust. That's from an article from Wealth Counsel, but that's a very well-established, whole network of attorneys and stuff. So 83% of Americans don't have this necessary tool. And I believe it comes down to a couple things. Number one, it's the lack of access to education, of which Scott just got through talking about. You can go to his website. All of our advisor partners, every single one of them, have the same type of video and educational free to go on and learn about this on their website. 55 minutes of learning. Go on, schedule with Scott to get how much is your 60-minute complimentary consultation cost? Oh, I gave it away. Complimentary. 60-minute after you watch it for free, then he'll get a 60-minute complimentary consultation. Every one of our advisor partners do the exact same thing. Okay? So that's the stat, and it's scary. But I believe not only is it the lack of education, but it's also a misunderstanding. When people hear estate planning, they hear estate planning over here. In their mind, they hear estate taxes.
Right.
Oh, well, estate taxes. First of all, I'm not a millionaire or billionaire, right? I'm not really that worried about, and they might have $1.5 million, $2 million. I don't have an estate tax problem. And you know what? They're right. They don't. 99.99, there we are again, percent of the Americans in the country don't have an estate tax problem. But what they do have is an estate planning problem because they haven't done it. So we call it proactively getting all of this stuff set up. So that's a great question, Scott. And do you want to touch a little bit more on that? And then that little teaser that we gave earlier, and really what differentiates not only CSI Financial Group, but also our entire platform and process. We can talk about that in a second.
Well, hey, Carter, real quick. I think one other thing that's stopping people from doing this and getting their estate plan in place is that they think that they have to go drive downtown, go into an elevator, go up to a building, wait in a big office, and it's kind of scary. Like I to me, it's no big deal what I've done and stuff. I remember taking my parents and walking, and they just they get freaked out and they get in these big buildings and stuff, and they're like, oh, when they go to doctors or attorneys, they it's almost like the Zeus came in the room. They're just just scared. So people think about it's like, okay, it's Friday. It's kind of nice out. The barbecuer's going. Am I going to go have that or go have pizza with the kids or go bowling with the guys? Or if I'm going to go have some wine with the ladies, or am I going to go get my estate plan done? Woohoo! That sounds exciting. Like nobody wants to go do that shit. Right. But it's because of what they think that it's going to be. And in reality is you're going to have to go see an attorney. It's going to be very expensive. It's going to be $200 to $350 an hour on average if you're going to get a decent attorney. And then they're going to have to put the plan together, and that's going to take a couple weeks. And then once the plan's done, then you're going to have to fund it, basically, then put everything in the plan. So many people, all right, what's the number on that? How many plans get put together and they don't even fund the damn things? It's a large percentage.
Scott, isn't that funny? I didn't tee that up for him to say that, by the way.
Right. That's amazing.
But it's interesting that you brought that up because I literally just got an article today. I'm going to read this. Trusts are effective, when they are funded. This is from an estate planning attorney. Her name's Cynthia Griffin. I'll go ahead and give a shout out to her. And she's not even someone in our network, but with Burnett and Griffin PLLC in Elizabethtown, I'm not even sure what state this is, this article is, but that's exactly the point. You're exactly right, Tim. And we talk about this on a regular basis. In fact, we have a proprietary video. We pride ourselves in making it nice and simple for our advisor partner network to educate those clients with explainer videos. That's one of the explainer videos. How we can also get the funding done. What's the average amount that it takes to fund somebody's trust on our platform, Scott?
Less than an hour. Less than an hour.
And let me ask you this. Do they have to get in an elevator, get in their car, drive downtown, and do they have to go somewhere to do all that?
They do not. They do not. They can just electronically send me the stuff, secured, and we can fund their trust in an hour. I can fund somebody's trust. They call me right now. By the time I can order a pizza, I might be able to fund their trust. As opposed to the traditional way, which might take 4 to 10 weeks to fund a trust, the traditional way. So, and again, it's critical you fund the trust. It's the only thing that avoids probate. So the most critical step in estate planning, funding the trust, we can do it in 30 minutes or an hour, where typically it take 4 to 10 weeks.
So you buy this big old thing. You're like, oh my goodness. And by the way, why do you think they put in a nice leather bound portfolio like this? Do you know why they do that? Because they want to feel like it was valuable.
Marketing. We call them shock. They're called shock and awe boxes. You'd send them and they're really beautiful and fancy, but the reality is just some type on paper.
Yeah. And the problem is it's literally worthless without exactly what you brought up, Tim. And that's the great point.
Yeah.
You might as well not even paid anything.
Yeah. So my whole point is that I noticed that was a big reason why people don't want to do it. They don't want to spend the money with the attorneys. They don't want to spend the time with them. They'd rather go golfing, go hang out with their lady friends, do the thing, go to the salon or whatever. And it makes sense. Okay. When we don't think we're going to die. Okay. That's the thing. We just don't think we're going to die, but this isn't about dying and taxes happening after you're dead. It's about all kinds of things that could happen. There's all kinds of little legal documents that just need to be put into place. So plan for the worst and then expect the best. So if these things do happen, your son, your daughter, your kids, your mom, your dad will be able to help you. I mean, you could still be alive. I mean, Terry Shriver was a perfect example. Usually in all financial planners are using that example when talking about estate planning, when the husband wanted to let her go and mom and dad are like, no, and there wasn't any clear defined plan. And then millions and millions of dollars was spent in court while this lady's just sitting there suffering on a lung machine, basically,
Yeah. And the other thing, Tim and Carter, that I see in my practice is people will bring in their existing trust all the time, and they open it up and they say, I don't know what this means. What does all this legalese mean? They have no idea. Ours is a personal document. We have the legalese portion there, but our clients can actually log in, write love letters to their kids and grandkids. They can leave videos. They can open a file and give their people they care about property in their file. It's a ultimate love letter. This thing is amazing, as opposed to a book has all these legal terms and nobody knows what it means. When they bring that trust in, I gotta say, I have no idea either. I gotta give you to the attorney. Let Jennifer look at it. I have no clue. But guess what? You're never gonna know either unless you get a law degree. Let's look at a different way where you can actually put in your personal feelings, love letters, and tell people where you want your stuff to go and why. And people who do that end up referring us to people, because there's never been a barbecue, a family reunion, a Thanksgiving dinner where somebody said, hey, Joe, you got to see my estate plan. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. You know why? It's a bunch of legalese. Ours, when people get done with it and they put in their wishes and their goals and their love letters, they tell their friends, you guys ought to do this. It was the most amazing. I've had people tell me, I sat down, did my estate plan. It took me 5 hours and I cried my eyes out because I wrote all 5 of my kids' love letters, and it's in there. And I put a video to my grandkids. It's emotional. When emotions get in there, people take ownership and they refer their friends to us, as opposed to a book. They have no idea what the heck the thing says.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So we ended the last segment with the tease on how Scott Garcia can be able to actually bring his estate planning team into your practice. Scott, we have learned painfully so that not a lot of advisors realize, and even though Tim just alluded to it, like you got to make this part of your practice, right? Early on, Scott had to learn a lot of these things, the mechanics of everything, the technicalities of everything, how the software works, who does what, when, why. And I've done everything. I mean, I have left no stone unturned to make it as turnkey as possible for these advisors. Is that fair, Scott? Did I get them everything?
Oh, everything and more. Everything somebody should need. Yes, you have. Yes.
But the problem was they just still, until they really got enamored or wrapped up into all of the functionalities and the team and the opportunity that it brings, right? They never bought into everything, even though inherently they know I need to make estate planning part of my practice. They know they need to. So what we did is we created what we call our OEPT, or outsourced estate planning team. And what we will do is, and it's all transparent and everything. What we will do is we will give you only have about 2 hours total of learn time. Before it was about 5 days, about 8 hours of learn time. And we've condensed it down to basically 2 hours of stuff that you need to know. And even that can be pared down. But Scott will actually work with other advisors throughout the country. It doesn't matter where they're at in the country, Florida, Texas, Maine, Oregon, it doesn't matter. He will work with these advisors, get to know that advisor. He will then take their clients. Now, of course, CSI, we create content, forward-facing videos and explainer videos and content to even engage to help the advisor. All he has to do is send out this one email, which we've created, right? That we make this advisor look like, oh my goodness, this is why I'm with this advisor right here, because he brought this to me. Now, we set out on this journey to do 3 things better than anybody else. Elevate this advisor's client, create professional contrast for this advisor, and ultimately competitor-proof those ideal clients for him. And if done properly, that's exactly what this does. So Scott will literally take the client through all that the advisor in the very beginning has to do, have the conversation with the client. He gets onto Scott's calendar. Scott and his team take it from there. We do all of it. All along the way, as we're doing all this, and I'm talking the funding specialist that gets involved, the attorney gets involved with all the customization. Then they go back to Scott. Scott makes sure that everything's funded properly the way it should be in this meeting session, all done online, all face-to-face, just like this, right? And he makes sure that all of the funding's done, proof of funding, we call it. And then he tees up the advisor for all the subtleties that they want to talk about anyway, but on his behalf. Tax mitigation, risk mitigation, assets under management, how you can manage, how he manages money better than anybody else, whatever it is. Now, and they create this relationship where he has his whole team. Scott and his team do all the heavy lifting for them. So then by the time these clients get back onto that advisor's calendar, and all this is calendared out, by the time that happens, that client has been through such an incredible hands-on experience that, Tim, what do you think is bound to happen?
Referrals.
Bingo. That's what it's all about, right? You ask your question, and we created this 3-page document. One of the questions on there is, are you referable, right? It's one thing to be referable, right? If I ask a guy, are you referable? He says, yeah, I'm referable, right? Why are you referable? Tell me what makes you different. What is it about you?
Right.
Scott, is it fair to say that this is the game changer in your practice and that you would never in a million years even imagine doing business any other way?
No way. No, never again, any other way. And again, you advisors out there that are listening, just imagine if you qualify, you could have an entire estate planning team edifying you through the whole process. We take you through the whole thing, and then you see all of their assets. They're set up for tax mitigation, investing, whatever. We've got the whole platform. All we do is work with your clients, telling them how great you are and getting their estate plan completed. They're going to want to refer you because it was something they wanted to do for 20 years, didn't know how to do it. And we made the process very simple, very economically priced, and quick for them. So they're going to want to refer their friends, which again gives you another client.
And safe from the comfort of their own home, right?
Yeah, never have to leave their house. Yeah, heck, I'm in Missouri. I could help somebody in California, Pittsburgh, New York, well, wherever. I can help them.
Yeah, that's pretty relevant right now, isn't it?
I think so.
So, Scott, I have this terminology as we wind this down, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk more with you on some of the health things that Tim James is going to share with the audience as well. But we have this terminology that we talk about on a regular basis, and you enrichers out there and financial advisors, let me ask you the question: is it true, yes or no, that it all begins and ends with client acquisition? If you said yes, you're in the right place, and come see us, right? Come to CSIFG.com, find out about why advisors are tapping into our entire process and everything that we've refined. If you said no, you should find another line of work.
Agreeable. Agreed.
Clients.
Agreed.
Awesome.
Agreed.
Okay, guys. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we get back, let's get into some of the health stuff, because it's not what you make, right? It's what you get to keep and the taxes and all that stuff. But all that stuff doesn't really matter if you don't have your health. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. What's up, Enrichers? We're back with our guest, Scott Garcia. And hey, Scott, now it's time to put you in the hot seat.
Uh-oh.
So what are you actually seeing as an advisor? Because you see a lot of people face-to-face, and now with the whole COVID thing, and what's cool is your business can be built virtually anyway, which is really great because you don't have to drive around and all that stuff. But what would you say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being poor and 10 being excellent health, the average client that you're seeing on a daily basis, where do they fall on that scale from 1 to 10? 1 poor, 10 excellent.
Yeah, I'd say if I had 12 interviews, I'd say probably 7 of those people have diabetes, overweight, heart problems. We're in the Midwest, so we eat a lot of beef here, and we I think people are very active as much as they would be in a place like Arizona, where it's nice weather most of the year. People hunker down in the winter time. So, unfortunately, we see a lot of overweight people. It's a shame because your health is your wealth. We've all that's been known for 100 years. And people accumulate assets, and they work their whole life to get the assets, and then they can't enjoy them because they're inactive. They can't do anything. So, I pride myself trying to stay. I'm 57 years old. I try to stay in shape. I work out. I lift weights. So it's a shame we see so many people overweight. But again, it's not just my office. It's just the way I think Missouri is. Whenever I travel to Las Vegas or Arizona or California, I look and I say, "Oh my God, I don't really see an overweight person at all." Then I get home, I'm like, "Well, it might just be the situation we're in, the environment we're in, where people are having these problems." Unfortunately. Yeah,
it really is the environment, right? So,
so.
it's always the environment. So, what are the top 3 things like that? Like, if you had any questions, you got me here right now live. So what are the top 1, 2, or 3 things as far as your health goes or your family health goes, questions you might have that I could help you with?
Personally, me, I'd love to. I'm 6 foot, 189 probably, and I'd love to have a ripped stomach. So what could I do And I work 50, 60 hours a week, so be nice. But I'm not opposed to working out at night on a bike and all that. But what are some things I could do that I probably don't know about that could help me lose my the excess fat in my stomach?
Okay. Well, first question would be is like, how much water are you drinking?
Tons. Probably
Tons of water?
12 of these a day, probably.
Okay, 12 of those. I noticed those are in plastic. Did you know that plastic is off-gassing little xenotoxins into your body?
I was wondering what that was.
Well, they're like estrogen.
I didn't know that.
You've heard of like BPA, like the whole Aaron Brockovich deal, right?
Sure,
Remember
yeah.
When they shut that whole thing down, BPA's banned. It's really bad. But then there's like 37 other xenotoxins lined up behind it, and it's going to take, they don't care. They spend a few billion, but they're still making multi billions on it, so it doesn't really matter for these big chemical industries. So what I would suggest right there is number one is always drink out of glass containers, never drink out of plastic. That would be, and this is a big deal because these are estrogen mimickers that cause breast cancer, prostate cancer, man boobs in guys. These little plastics are being found 1,500 miles into the interior. And these little lakes, and the 2.5 inch fish have both now male and female organs. And why? It's because of these estrogen mimicking plastics that are so microscopically small, but they're now in our ecosystem. So what we recommend is purified water. And if you're in on the city water, then you definitely want to get that water restructured because the high pressure pipes in the city will coagulate those molecules and make them too big. And then it's like a bowling ball trying to go through a chain link fence, which is your intestinal lining. It's not going to work. You'll drink a lot of water, but you'll be just peeing it out all the time. When you switch over to triple purified and then restructured water, you drink it, it just disappears into the body. One of the other big things as far as losing that stubborn belly fat, that visceral fat. So for those of you listening, if you can reach down and grab at least 3 inches of belly fat, then you also have a major visceral fat issue. And probably what it revolves to is there's two things. Number one, long-term nutrient deficiencies. People forget that 85% of the nutrients have been farmed out of our soil today. So we have to replace those. Just going to organic is great. You're eliminating, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, larvicides, chemical fertilizers to a greater extent, but you're still eating and living on about 15% fuel. So Scott, most people are walking around on 15% fuel. That's why they're so tired. And because of that, they're going to have a hard time losing weight because their body's telling them, I need nutrients. I need nutrients because the cells are sending signals to the brain to tell you to move your ass and go eat some more food. And so we do, and we eat and we eat and we eat. But since it's not in the soil, so if it's not in the soil, it's not in the plant or not in the plant or the animal that ate the plant. It's not in the food chain anymore. So we're literally starving on a cellular level, yet we're overweight and malnourished. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right. So that's one big thing. We have long-term nutrient deficiencies in this country and around the world now. And then the second thing is sleep. A lot of people think that they're getting good sleep. Even if you're first off, out of the 600 people that I personally coach, around 60+% of them have major sleep issues right out of the gate. So a large percentage of people today are dealing with sleep issues. If you're not sleeping well, you are not getting into what's called metabolic regeneration. And you're going to have higher cortisol levels. And what that means is it doesn't matter if you eat healthy food or bad food, it's going to turn into that visceral fat that's going to choke out your organs and lead to disease and disorder. But the other thing is for those you listening and saying, hey, I sleep 7 hours, I sleep 8 hours, and I sleep like a rock. Well, you have to test that because you may be sleeping 7 to 8 hours, but it might be called shallow sleep. It's actually called shallow sleep syndrome. And everybody over 40, it's the number one reason why people are gaining weight. Because if you don't get that deep sleep, then your body's not able to basically create the necessary these hormones. One of them is ghrelin. Ghrelin gets elevated, which also creates hunger cravings. And if you don't have your hormones in balance with your shallow sleep, then you're simply going to gain weight, and it's going to be very difficult for you to burn fat. The other one is adenosine. You want adenosine, and we're not getting it because we're not getting that metabolic regeneration. So those are the first two things that we work on. We usually just get people drinking lots of purified, restructured water. This is a simple, basic thing that can be done very quickly. And then number two, we have them flood their body with nutrition. I showed you that formula earlier, this Green 85 it's one of our products that we recommend. Or you can grow sprouts in your house 365 days a year like I do. And I know a lot of people listening are going, yeah, dude, I ain't doing that. But, it'd be smart if you can start growing fresh food in your house 365 days a year. A lot of people like gardening, right? Love the gardens, but it's very seasonal, right? And then it's gone. So that's why sprouts are very handy, because you can do it on your countertop, and they're 30 to 50 times more nutritious than fresh picked vegetables. So the key word there is fresh picked. The stuff that you're buying at the grocery store was picked 2-3 weeks ago, and it's literally, void of what the nutrients could have been. It's the shadow of what it could have been. And then that third component is really making sure that you're getting into that deep restorative sleep. So you have to get like some people wear Fitbits, and you can start measuring your deep sleep and then start hacking your sleep and making sure that dropping the temperature down, usually around 61 degrees, people sleep better in a deeper sleep, making sure the window is cracked at night, even in a snowstorm, purifying your air, making sure that your headboard is not within 3 foot of an electrical socket, because it's putting on dirty electricity. It's ELFs. And I have a meter. I go into people's homes and go, and they're like, oh my God. And your head's in that all the time. Right. So you can buy blockers for that. We put people on grounding mats so that they're grounded, so that it resembles you sleeping out on the ground, getting that natural frequency, which speeds up blood flow and helps with sleep and regeneration and aches and pains after lifting weights. You'll heal faster and you'll just sleep deeper. So these are just a few of the things that we share with our clients, and helping people have that health component to put and combine with their wealth. Because if you don't have both of them, you're literally like, hopping around on one leg. It's just, it makes life a lot more difficult than if you have both legs. You got a good healthy body, you got a good fat bank account, it's growing, everything's good, and so anyway, did you have any other questions?
Well, that's very interesting. That is amazing stuff. I had no idea. 90% of what you just said, I had no clue. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't 10 years ago either. That's why I had all my problems.
That's incredible. That's amazing. What about reflux? Are there natural ways to help with reflux?
Yeah, as long as it's not a mechanical issue, a lot of that will remedy itself. Just doing some of the stuff I talk about. I also teach a class called Proper Food Combining. Knowing which foods to mix and which combination is huge. Like the biggest one is mixing proteins with starchy carbohydrates. That's the worst of all combination. That'll create over 123 chemicals in your gastrointestinal tract that is going to slowly erode and destroy your intestinal villi, these hair-like structures lining the intestinal tract, and lead to what I had, what was leaky gut syndrome. And I had acid reflux, dude, so bad. I was eating Tums and Rolaids like candy. My doctor wanted me going to Prilosec, but it just sounded weird. I didn't like that medical term. And my gut was all jacked up for a long time. So when I changed my lifestyle, changed the environment, like we were talking earlier, day one from that day, January 1st, 2011, I've never had heartburn since, not once.
That's amazing. That's unreal. Wow.
Yep.
Impressive. So what are some things, if somebody's concerned about COVID that comes into my office, or if I'm, having a webinar, or I'm on the phone, what are some things I can tell them to help prevent or, keep COVID away from them if that's at all possible?
So you're talking about people coming in and they're kind of freaked out about it?
Yeah. Or even on the phone or in a webinar. What could I do?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing that people have to understand is that our bodies have the innate capacity to heal ourselves and to protect us. Okay. For so many years, the medical community has based our immune system on two things, the adaptive immune system and the innate immune system. And those are both correct, and those are there. But Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai came out earlier this year, and he did the prestige lecture at I think it's called the National Sciences Foundation. And this is where the top scientists get together. And he did the new modern version of the immune system. And it does have the innate and the adaptive system there, but there's three other big components. One of them is called the interferon system, which that part of the system means that our bodies welcome in viruses. They welcome in bacteria. They want that stuff so that they can look at it, figure it out, and then develop your necessary antibodies for life and become 1,000 times stronger so that if those viruses or bacteria mutate or just a little bit, it'll handle any variation of it. So it's a very important part. This is called a herd immunity. This is how it's supposed to work. And, and people are missing out on that part. People forget that our bodies, Scott, are 380 trillion viruses. 60 trillion bacterial cells in our body and only 6 trillion human cells. So we are more viruses and bacteria than we ever are human cells, right? So we have to understand that, and our body wants these things to come in. It's not the germ theory where we have to kill everything. And what we're doing is we're actually making ourselves sicker, putting Purell all over hands and antibacterial stuff. Not only are you killing 99.9% of the bad bacteria, but you're also killing the good bacteria on your skin that protect you. And then that stuff goes right through your skin into your bloodstream, no liver, and it wipes out your gut bacteria, which is a major part of the immune system. The two other parts of that modern day immune system is the gut and the brain, and they're connected. So the gut bacteria and protecting the bacteria on your skin, everything is of utmost importance. We need to get our kids out in the dirt. We need to get outside so they can get sunshine and get vitamin D, even in a snowstorm. As long as they're wearing non-synthetic clothing and natural clothing, those UV rays will get through the skin and help them to build that vitamin D. But to get to your point, fear is one of the worst things you can have in your life because it literally drops your immune system down just like that. So if you're watching the news, I want to take away some of the fear really quick, especially for the listeners out there, and for you, Scott. So you can share this with your friends, family, and your clients. Is that look on the news and it says deaths and it says cases. Okay, and if you notice, they've been fear. They've been saying cases are going up, cases are going up. Well, okay. First off, let's identify what is a case. A case is actually when somebody gets tested positive for, let's say, COVID in this case, and they have symptoms. They have, sweats. They have a high fever. They have diarrhea. They lose taste. They lose smell. These are symptoms. They go to a doctor, and these symptoms are charted on their medical information bureau, which becomes a permanent part of their charts forever, right? That's a case. When you get tested positive for COVID or anything else, that's not a case. That's tested positive. So they're lying to us on the news, or they're morons. One of the two. Which one do you think it is?
Both.
Okay, probably. Right? It shouldn't say cases. It should say positive test or test positive, right? That's what it should say. So saying cases is lying to people because cases is scarier. That's why they say cases, because it's case, they're in a hospital. They got a case. It's bad, right? Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, how are they testing? They are testing with what is called a PCR test. And most of the doctors that I've listened to and I follow and I've talked to told me that what they do is they take a little bit of our genetic material and they look at it under a microscope. And then they zoom in one cycle or one magnification. Then they zoom in a second cycle or a second magnification, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. After 17 zooms or magnifications or cycles, whatever you want to call them, they say the test is useless. It's no good because you're going to get all these false positives. Even Dr. Fauci came out and said that after 35 cycles or magnifications, the test is worthless. Yet the FDA has all these testing facilities, and the FDA of Europe, I can't remember the name of it, are having the testing facilities doing 40 to 45 cycles. And that's why we're getting over 80% false positives on this test. So why are the quote unquote cases going up? Well, number one, we're rolling out testing like crazy. Testing is increased like crazy. So of course those numbers are going to go up, but we have to understand that about 80% of those so-called cases, which are test positives, are false positives. So only about 20% of what you're seeing on the news is actually somebody testing positive with corona. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have symptoms. They could be asymptomatic and not have any issues at all. A lot of people get it and they don't even know they have it. Okay. Right. So if we understand that they're trying to scare the crap out of us, that's number one. Now, what do you do? How do you put the rubber to the road? Well, number one, the whole talk should be about boosting immune system, not scaring everybody into forcing an inoculation, a rushed vaccination into your shoving a needle into your arm. That should not be the answer. So what we do is we just teach people basic fundamentals of boosting the immune system. What do you do? Spend time with your friends and family, right? That's number one. That's what the people that live in the blue zones, they have lifelong friends. Move your body. Just get outside and walk. Get outside and get vitamin D. Eat lots of green leafy vegetables and get lots of vitamin A. Vitamin D from the sun or from a supplement, a good supplement, well, actually, it's like a machine gun. It shoots holes in the virus. Zinc is very important. Getting zinc into the cell stops the viruses from replicating. Where do we get zinc? You can supplement it. It's in a lot of products. You can also get it in mung beans. Mung beans are riddled with zinc. You know those long Chinese bean sprouts, Carter?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, I know you go to the Chinese food place, right?
Oh yeah, P.F. Chang's.
Those are riddled with zinc. Not only are those good for protecting against viruses, but they're also great for prostate issues. So for you gentlemen out there listening, you have prostate concerns, they're riddled with zinc. You should be eating a tremendous amount of mung beans. You can even juice those things. They're awesome. Okay, now vitamin C is another one. It's an antiviral. So now if you boost your immune system with taking a bunch of that stuff, then most likely you're not going to have to worry about it, right? If you catch something like that, because your body's going to just handle it. Your interferon system is going to kick in. It'll develop the necessary antibodies for life. But let's say this. Let's say you're overweight. You have type 2 diabetes. You've had chronic heart disease. Maybe you've had some stents. You had cancer. You just came off of chemo. You're weak. And now what do you do? Well, I have proof that mainstream media showed us this May that Dr. Ryan Paget, a medical doctor up in Seattle who was first treating COVID patients, and this guy was a 44-year-old, 6'2", 240-pound football star from Northwestern that played in the Rose Bowl. He never thought he was going to get sick, but he got it, right? And what happened? He was getting worse and worse, and then they put him on a ventilator, and then his lungs and his heart was failing because ventilators actually are the worst thing you could possibly do with somebody has liquid in their lungs. The ventilators are actually killing people. So what did they do? They did an experimental treatment, and they said they put him on an immunosuppressant drug and high-dose vitamin C IV. So there's that natural remedy right there again, high-dose vitamin C IV. It's been used for years. I mean, we use it, all of our cancer clients, we have them doing it once a week. I mean, it is fantastic. You could do high-dose vitamin C IV. You could do high-dose ozone IV. You could do high-dose or normal dose of colloidal silver or nano-sized silver particles, which was the original antibiotic. There's so many different things that you could do for that type of situation for critical. Now, you could also do hydroxychloroquine and zinc. You know, you guys have probably seen that. That's a very inexpensive drug at 60. You know, I'm chemical-free body guy, and I'm promoting pharmaceutical drugs now because there's so much scare out there. But the hydroxychloroquine doesn't work without the zinc. You have to take it with the zinc. Also, Dr. Richard Barlett down in Texas using budesonide. This is an inhaled steroid with zinc. It's $200 out of pocket. It's an old drug. It's used on infants and elderly people. No problems with it. Very little side effects. But it has to be taken with zinc to get that zinc into the cells so that it stops the virus from replicating. So those are just a couple ideas of things that people can do that are very readily available, but it's hard because all this stuff is being censored. You can't talk about this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. They censor it. They censor the doctors talking about it. They censor everybody. Why? What's going on? Why can't they just let us make up our own mind, right? Because, you know, the truth will prevail, though, on shows like this and other places. People are waking up to the fact that, you know, we're being lied to. And the reality is that the best doctor we have is ourself and nature.
True. Unbelievable information. Can you repeat it real quick?
I could, but Carter might get mad at me.
Exactly. No, it's great information. We got to talk off the line here. That's awesome stuff. It's unbelievable. So great education. I know everybody out there listening had to find that very valuable.
Well, I hope so, because, you know, we gave you guys a couple, the first 2/3 of the shows were some awesome things to radically change your wealth and your wealth planning. And we like to, you know, leave something there to talk about the health stuff too, because it's just as important, you know, because why not have both? If you're going to be here on this planet, why not? Why not have it all? Why not have the health and the wealth and have it all? And it's out there, but people are, you know, they're misled. There's a lot of financial advisors that are misled. They think that they can just go out and get a bunch of money under management, and that's the end all be all. But I think people are going to be gravitating away from that because people are looking for full service, which what you guys offer.
Well, Scott, think about this for a second. And you say this on a regular basis, like back when we used to have to try to train the advisor to know all the stuff that you know, right? Which would take,
right.
Well, it would never happen. They couldn't understand it.
Right.
But many, many times you've said that if you do this presentation properly, the people in the audience, they're like, what?
Exactly.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that about estate planning. I didn't know that was what estate planning was. I didn't know that could happen to me. Right.
Right. all the time.
Much in the same way, right? It's about access. And if you are suppressing access, even Jennifer and Sierra, a couple of our network attorneys, talk about this. The legal profession has done a phenomenal job suppressing access to this category or this topic, right?
Totally.
Same exact thing with the media and all the things that Tim brings to the table with educating what we should be talking about. You should have Anthony Fauci in front of the camera with, 300 million people listening, right? Talking about how to boost your immune system. Never one time that I know of has he talked about zinc, vitamin C, sunshine. It's the exact opposite. So to Tim's point, what's really going on? What's really happening? And we can talk more about that, in other episodes and other shows. But it's important. A lot of the things that Tim talks about that he brings to the table, why I wanted to partner up and have him be my co-host, is that he brings this wealth of knowledge on health.
No
right?
doubt.
Tim talks about having a fat wallet and a flat belly. Right?
That's right, baby.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Why not? You can. Why not? Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
We might have to throw in there a beautiful tan like Scott has.
There you go. In Missouri too. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
If you're an advisor out there and you're listening, you don't have a nice tan like Scott, that means you are working too hard and you're not working smart enough.
That's correct. We can show them how to work hard and get a tan and work smart too. Exactly.
There you go. And Richards, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Scott Garcia from St. Louis, Missouri, president of Premier Estate and Income Planning. Scott, do you have any last words that you want to share with anybody as we segue on out of here?
Well, please educate yourself. Go to the website if you'd like, PEIPSTL.com. Watch the video. Get on my calendar. We'd love to educate you. And please listen to Tim James. Tim James is a wealth of knowledge. I learned a lot, Tim. Thanks so much for being here with us.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on as the first guest. I will never forget that. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely our pleasure. And Scott, one other thing, I believe you just added fairly recently on that website some of your radio shows that you've had on there that they can learn more about as well.
They're on there. There's 15 radio shows you can watch from my website, PEIPSTL.com. Love to have you listen.
Awesome. Tim James, my brother, I appreciate you being on here with me again. Always good to have us come together. I know we're going to be getting together again real soon to do our next podcast, which we plan on doing with the ladies.
That's right. We're having the ladies come on. So for those of you out there that are tuning in, bring your ladies with you. If you are a lady tuning in, then bring your hubby with you or bring your lady. You never know what's going on nowadays.
There you go. For sure. So for Tim James, Chemical Free Body, Carter Wilcoxon here, CSI Financial Group, saying, enrichers, keep on getting enriched with health and wealth. And we look forward to seeing you on the very next episode.
Good job.
All right.
Perfect. Good job.
Hope
it was good, guys. Hope it was good.
So, yep.
Dude, it was fantastic. And Scott, I know you learned a lot.
I did. Tim, can we talk offline sometime?
Mm-hmm.
What's your number?
503-329-1641.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Shoot me a text with your information.
I'll group text you guys right now.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Awesome. No, I learned a lot, man. It's awesome. Yeah,
Dude, I've been geeking out on this shit for like 10 years now. It's like now it's like I've healed myself. Now it's like, how young can I look? How healthy can I feel? And how can I help other people do the same thing?
Yeah, I'm into it, man. I love it. I want you to talk to my girlfriend too, because she's always had stomach problems. Stuff she eats, every day. It's like a stomach problem. And the doctors can't help her. She goes to the doctor. We don't know. Let's run some tests. Nothing for 20 years, man. I'm thinking there's got to be something. So maybe you can make some suggestions there. But yeah, I'd like to talk to you sometime.
Absolutely, yeah. The gut health is kind of my specialty, so I usually get the really hard toughies coming into our private coaching program, and we put them in we have a 6-month program for that, and just kind of walk them right through it, and we start from the top of your head, we go to your toes and everything in between, and we figure it out. There's a lot of things that people aren't even thinking of that are potential burdens on the body that are messing them up, and sometimes it's emotional too. We'll uncover that.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, I'll definitely be in touch with you for sure.
Cool,
I appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you too. Thanks for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. Awesome.
Hey, Enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode, and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.